After the revelation of our kinship, my supposed elder sister, with a profound understanding of the situation, graciously relinquished her fiancé to me, saying, "Sister, Gugur is yours. I shall withdraw." Her tears evoked a wave of sympathy from the family, who directed their scorn towards me. I comprehended their dynamics. This family favored the soft approach over the harsh. Thus, with a resounding thud, I knelt down, weeping more bitterly than she. "Sister, how can you withdraw? If you do, Gugu will blame me, our parents will blame me, and even my brother will blame me. What meaning does my existence hold then?" As I wept, I seized a nearby fruit knife, declaring, "If my sister does not agree, I shall end my life right here." The entire family was rendered speechless with shock. Even the false heiress stood in stunned silence. What a jest. When it comes to tears, I am a true master. In the first week of returning to the Shin family, I felt like an intruder in a foreign world. Shin Xingwan, the faux heiress who had occupied 18 years of my life, was the princess of this realm. That day, several workers arrived at the house, carrying ladders and paint buckets, intending to coat the entire villa's walls in the cream color favored by Shin Xingwan. My room's walls, originally a subtle beige, were also slated for renovation. I stopped the workers and gently inquired, "Could you possibly refrain from painting my room?" Hearing my voice, Shin Xingwan approached, linking her arm with our mother. Her eyes glistened with tears as she said, "Sister, do you not like it?" "I'm sorry, I didn't consider your feelings. I thought you would also appreciate this warm color." Mother immediately frowned at me, saying, "Yue Chu, Xingwan means well. How can you be so ungrateful?" Father set down his newspaper, stating, "It's merely a wall. A unified style for the family looks better." Observing their nonchalant demeanor, I understood. In this household, my opinions held no weight. It was Shin Xingwan's tears that mattered. Thus, my eyes reddened, and with a voice more pitiful than hers, laden with suppressed sobs, I said, "Father, Mother, I am not ungrateful. It's just that I heard this room was prepared for me as a nursery, and this beige color was chosen by you with great care." I lifted my gaze, my eyes brimming with tears, yet stubbornly refusing to let them fall. I wished to preserve that feeling as if I had never been lost. I yearned to experience what it would have been like had I grown up by your side. My voice trembled, eventually dissolving into a stifled whimper. "I'm sorry. I have been too willful, and I should not have made such a request. Please, go ahead and paint. Just consider that I never returned." The living room fell into an eerie silence. The reproach on my parents' faces morphed into shock, followed by an overwhelming wave of guilt. Mother abruptly pushed Shin Xingwan aside and rushed to embrace me, exclaiming, "Good child, don't cry, don't cry, it's my fault. It's your parents who have wronged you." Father shouted at the workers, "Who allowed you to touch the second young lady's room? Do not touch anything. Move your things away." My brother, Shin Ijo, had just descended the stairs and, witnessing the scene, hurried to my side, awkwardly patting my back. "Yue Chu, don't cry. No one dares to touch your room." Shin Xingwan stood frozen, her previously delicate demeanor now stiffened. She likely hadn't anticipated that I would return her little trick with tenfold intensity. She attempted to speak, but I cried even harder. "Sister, please do not blame me. I did not intend to upset father and mother. I simply cannot control myself." This single utterance silenced any potential reproaches she might have voiced. Should she speak again, it would only portray her as lacking empathy for a victim just returned home, whose heart was sensitive and fragile. The fluctuations in Shin Xingwan's complexion were a spectacle to behold. After that incident, no one in the household dared to mention painting the walls again. My room became the sole sanctuary within this cream-colored castle. Shin Xingwan remained subdued for a few days, but it wasn't long before she devised a new scheme. On her birthday, Shin Ijo gifted her a vibrant red Porsche, the keys nestled within a velvet box that gleamed enticingly. Shin Xingwan squealed in delight, clasping Shin Ijo's arm. Laughing and hopping, "Thank you, brother. I adore you." The entire family beamed at her, enveloped in a warm and harmonious atmosphere. I stood in the corner, feeling like an outsider. Shin Ijo's gaze briefly swept over me, seemingly uncomfortable, as he retrieved another small box from his pocket and handed it to me. "Yue Chu, this is for you." I opened it to find a bracelet that appeared quite valuable, but in comparison to the car, it seemed like a mere trifle. It felt like charity. Shin Xingwan cast a glance and remarked, "Wow, brother is so biased. Even the little sister's gift is so beautiful." In reality, her eyes sparkled with pride. I stared at the bracelet, refusing to accept it. Tears cascaded down my cheeks silently, not a wail, but a steady stream of droplets falling one after another. Laughter in the living room abruptly ceased. All eyes turned towards me. I choked on my words. My voice as light as a feather. Brother, thank you. I cannot accept this. Shinijo was taken aback. Why not? I lifted my tear-filled eyes. A mixture of inferiority, envy, and endless sorrow reflected within them. A child raised in the muddy fields of the countryside like me does not deserve such a precious gift. Sister is like a star in the sky. She deserves the very best. The car, the designer brands, they should all belong to her. As for me, I managed a self-deprecating smile, tears streaming more fiercely. I only wish for enough food and to not be a burden to you. That is more than sufficient. I appreciate your kindness, brother, but I truly do not deserve this gift. I turned away, covering my mouth, and ran upstairs, stifling my sobs. My silhouette was marked by utter loneliness and despair. Behind me, Shinijo's frantic voice called out, Yuechu. Wait, let me explain. Accompanied by my parents' exasperated reprimands, Ijo. What is wrong with you? How could you treat them so differently? Shen Xingwan's hand, clutching the car keys, hung suspended in midair, her smile more ghastly than tears. That night, Shinijo knocked on my door. His eyes were red, filled with remorse. Yuechu, I'm sorry. It was thoughtless of me. I sat by the window, hugging my knees, my eyes swollen like walnuts, remaining silent. He pushed a bank card towards me. There's 3 million here, as compensation from your brother. Choose any car you like, one better than your sister's. I did not look at the card, but spoke softly, Brother, I do not want things. I merely feel that in your hearts, I will never measure up to sister. It's all right. I've come to terms with it. After all, she has accompanied you for 18 years. Shinijo's heart ached. No, you are my true sister. From now on, I will give you the very best. He nearly forced the card into my hand before fleeing in distress. I gazed at the card, wiping away the last of my crocodile tears. You wish to compete with me, Shen Xingwan? You are still inexperienced. 3. The fiancé of the Shen family is named Gu Huijing. He is the heir of the Gu group and was originally Shen Xingwan's fiancé. After my return, this engagement became rather awkward. Shen Xingwan has performed her acts of kindness and magnanimity more than once before my parents. Father, mother, the engagement belongs to the Shen family. Now that my sister has returned, it is only natural for her to inherit it. I am willing to withdraw and wish Huijing and my sister well. Each time she uttered such words, my parents only grew more sympathetic towards her, feeling as though I had stolen something from her. When Gu Huijing first came to our home for dinner, the atmosphere was rather peculiar. He sat across from me, his gaze polite yet distant, spending most of the time conversing with Shen Xingwan. They discussed mutual friends, high society parties, topics I could not interject into. I quietly ate, playing the role of a transparent entity. During the meal, Shen Xingwan served me food, her gestures affectionate, as if we were true sisters. Sister, eat more. You are too thin. Then, her hand trembled, and a piece of greasy braised pork fell squarely onto my old, faded t-shirt. A large blotch of grease quickly spread out. Oh no, she exclaimed, her face filled with regret. I'm so sorry, sister. I didn't mean to. Your shirt. All eyes fixed on the stain on my chest. That t-shirt was one I had brought from the countryside, purchased for 20 yuan at a street stall. Among the high-end custom and luxury brands in the room, it felt wholly out of place, now resembling a joke. If I were to explode with anger, it would seem trivial and immature. If I tolerated it, it would imply I accepted my inferior status. I gazed at the grease stain, feeling no anger. Instead, I smiled. A smile more sorrowful than tears. Then I raised my head, tears brimming in my eyes, yet stubbornly refusing to let them fall. It's all right, sister. My voice was hoarse, merely an old garment, stained and discarded. After all, I possessed nothing but this attire, unlike my sister, who donned brands I could scarcely recognize. It was I who brought shame upon this family. I should not have been wearing such clothing while dining at the table. I set down my chopsticks, rose to my feet, and bowed deeply to everyone. I apologize, father, mother, Mr. Gu. I must take my leave. With that, I turned and walked away, my back straight as an arrow. Each step felt as though it echoed upon the hearts of all present. I sensed Gu Huijing's gaze shift for the first time from Shen Xingwan to me, imbued with a mix of curiosity and pity. Behind me loomed my mother's suppressed fury. Shin Xingwan, look at the trouble you've caused. Shin Xingwan protested, Mother, I truly did not mean to. Enough. I believe you did this on purpose. A meticulously arranged family banquet was thrown into disarray by my unspilled tears. That evening, Gu Huiqing sent me a text message. Are you free tomorrow? I would like to take you shopping for some clothes. I gazed at the message and smiled. The fish had taken the bait. I did not decline Gu Huiqing's invitation. The next day, I appeared at the designated mall entrance, clad in that oil-stained t-shirt, precisely on time. Upon seeing me, Gu Huiqing's handsome brows knitted into a frown. Why are you still wearing that? I lowered my head and murmured. It's the only outfit I have that is fit for going out. His expression grew even more complex. Without uttering a word, he grasped my wrist and led me into the most upscale luxury store within the mall. The staff regarded my attire with disdain, but upon seeing Gu Huiqing's black card, their demeanor shifted to one of utmost enthusiasm. Gu Huiqing pointed to a row of the latest dresses and instructed the staff, wrap up everything suitable for her. Then, turning to me, his voice softened, go try them on. Feeling like a startled rabbit, I repeatedly shook my head, no, they are far too expensive. I cannot accept them. This is not for you, he replied nonchalantly, it is for the Shin family's reputation. When you go out wearing street vendor goods, it tarnishes the Shin name. Though his words were harsh, I recognized his clumsy kindness. I was compelled to don a white dress. The girl in the mirror appeared delicate, pale and timid, a stark contrast to my usual demeanor. As I stepped out, Gu Huiqing's gaze momentarily faltered. He quickly regained his composure and handed his card to the staff, wrap it all up. As we exited the store, he carried a multitude of bags in varying sizes. I followed behind him, head bowed, whispering, Mr. Gu, thank you. But I still cannot. Call me Huiqing, he interrupted. I was taken aback. He halted. Turning to face me, his gaze profound. Shin Yuechu, you need not live so cautiously. You are the legitimate miss of the Shin family. In the sunlight, his features were sharply defined, his eyes reflecting emotions I could not comprehend. I silently scoffed, yet replied, but in their hearts, my sister is the one. I am merely an outsider. Tears began to brim in my eyes. I wished to claim nothing that belonged to my sister, including you. I looked at him and said, Gu Huiqing, you seem truly happy with my sister. I wish you both well. And may I soon adapt to a life of solitude. With that, I clutched the shopping bags and fled, leaving Gu Huiqing standing there, furrowed brow and somber expression. He began to avoid Shin Xingwan. When she called him, he was either in a meeting or out of town. When she visited his office, he had his secretary inform her that he was unavailable. Shin Xingwan was on the verge of madness. She approached me, demanding, Shin Yuechu, what did you say to Huiqing? I feigned innocence, blinking my eyes as tears welled. Sister, what do you mean? How could I say anything to Mr. Gu? I only told him I wished you both well and to treat you kindly. Sister, how could you doubt me? I pressed my hand to my heart, feigning hurt. How could you think I would be the kind of person to disrupt your relationship? Shin Xingwan was left speechless by my retort. Seizing the moment, I sobbed. I understand now. It is all my fault. I should not have returned. Nor should I have appeared before you. I shall leave the Shin family and never disturb you again. With that, I attempted to dash out. Just then, my parents descended the stairs and were taken aback by the scene. Xingwan, what are you doing to your sister? Father thundered. Your sister is in poor health. And you are provoking her. What is your intention? Mother chimed in with reproach. Shin Xingwan stood there, trembling. Her eyes filled with malice as she watched me cower in my mother's embrace. She knew she had lost, utterly and completely. Shin Xingwan began to mimic my behavior. She realized that confrontation was futile and opted for a more vulnerable approach. While we were eating fruit, the maid presented the first plate of cut watermelon to me. Shin Xingwan noticed, but said nothing. Moments later, she suddenly clutched her stomach, her face paling. Oh, my stomach hurts terribly. Mother immediately grew anxious. What is it, Xingwan? Shin Xingwan leaned weakly against the sofa, her eyes reddening. It's nothing, Mother. Perhaps my stomach is sensitive, and I cannot eat cold watermelon. She glanced pointedly at the watermelon before me, the implication clear. Shin Yuechu can eat, but I cannot. None of you care about me. In the past, my mother would have rushed to comfort her and then turned to blame me or the maid. But now I was one step ahead. Before my mother could speak, My fork clattered to the floor. I clutched my chest, my complexion whiter than Xin Xingwan's, breath quickening. Sister, do you think I stole your watermelon? I am so sorry. It is all my fault. I forgot that your stomach is delicate. I, on the other hand, am coarse and can eat anything. Please do not be angry. When you are upset, I feel constricted and can hardly breathe. As I spoke, I gasped for air, clutching my chest as though I might suffocate at any moment. You chew. Quickly. Call an ambulance. The entire family was thrown into chaos. Father rushed over to assist me in calming down, mother held me weeping, and my brother, Xin pulled Xin Xingwan aside, lowering his voice in anger. Xin Xingwan. Was this intentional? You know Wechu is frail, and yet you feign distress to provoke her. Xin Xingwan was stunned. She merely had a stomach ache, while I appeared on the brink of death. How could she possibly compare? Ultimately, the family doctor was summoned, conducting a thorough examination, concluding, the second miss is experiencing palpitations and difficulty breathing due to emotional distress. She requires rest and must not be subjected to any further stress. From that moment on, my position within this household was akin to that of Empress Dowager Cixi. I commanded the attention of all. When I spoke, no one dared dissent. With a mere frown, the family would rally around me with concern. Xin Xingwan was completely isolated. In this household, she became an awkward presence. With everyone fearing that a careless move on her part might shatter me, the fragile porcelain doll. Yet, she was unwilling to accept this fate. She knew she must devise a plan to drive me out completely. Thus, she orchestrated a grand scheme. One day, as I descended the stairs, I spotted Xin Xingwan standing at the staircase's edge. Upon noticing me, a peculiar glint flashed in her eyes. As I approached her, she suddenly let out a piercing scream and tumbled down the stairs, her body rolling down with alarming speed. The tremendous noise startled everyone. Father, mother, and Xin rushed from their rooms, only to find Xin Xingwan sprawled at the bottom of the stairs, her forehead bloodied and streaming. Meanwhile, I stood unharmed in the middle of the staircase. Xin Xingwan raised her hand, weakly pointing at me, tears mingling with blood. It was my sister who pushed me. Instantly, the gazes of everyone present pierced through me like daggers. In their eyes, there was shock, skepticism, and a suppressed fury. I had become the target of collective blame. If I were to defend myself, claiming it was not me, in that moment, no one would believe me. One was lively and vibrant, while the other was bloodied and battered. Even a fool could discern whom to trust. Xin Xingwan lay on the ground, the corners of her mouth curling into a barely perceptible, victorious smirk. She believed she had secured her triumph. I gazed at her, as well as at the family encircling her. I did not attempt to defend myself, nor did I cry out. Instead, I widened my eyes. Those eyes which the doctor had diagnosed as fragile, now brimming with utmost terror and disbelief. My body began to tremble uncontrollably. No, it wasn't me. I uttered these 3 words, then rolled my eyes back, collapsing straight backward. The back of my head struck the hard marble steps with a resounding thud. The sound was more chilling than Xin Xingwan's descent. Just before losing consciousness, I caught a glimpse of Xin Xingwan's triumphant smile, frozen on her face. Perhaps she had not anticipated that while she employed a ploy of self-harm, I could resort to a desperate act of self-sacrifice. You dare to perform, and I dare to perish. Let us see who outplays whom. When I awoke, I found myself in a hospital, surrounded by an expanse of white, the scent of disinfectant lingering in the air. My parents and Xin stood by my bedside, each face etched with fatigue and fear. Upon seeing me open my eyes, my mother was the first to burst into tears. Yuechu, you've finally awakened. You scared your mother to death. A sharp pain pierced through the back of my head, causing me to emit a soft whimper. Xin immediately grew anxious, asking, "What's wrong? Does your head still hurt?" Doctor. The physician arrived promptly to conduct an examination. The patient has sustained a mild concussion, and given her previously advised extreme emotional instability, this significant shock has led to her current state of shock. The doctor addressed my parents with a serious tone, Mr. and Mrs. Xin. The patient's condition is not optimistic. Her mental state is exceedingly fragile, akin to a tightly strung bow. Any further disturbance could cause it to snap. As family members, you must create an environment that is absolutely safe and serene for her. She must not endure any further distress or provocation. The doctor's words became a decree. sealing Shin Xingwan's fate. My father's complexion turned ashen as he glanced towards the doorway, where Shin Xingwan, also bandaged, stood. His eyes were filled with an unprecedented coldness and disappointment. Shin Xingwan's injuries were merely superficial, having been treated long ago. Whereas I faced the brink of mental collapse coupled with a concussion. The disparity was glaringly evident. I lay on the hospital bed, weakly turning my head to look at Shin Xingwan, tears silently streaming down my cheeks. Sister, why did you say that? I didn't push you, I truly didn't. I know you despise me, you want me to leave this home. Fine, I will leave. Once I am discharged, I shall never return. You can all pretend I am not your daughter. My voice was faint, yet each word struck deep into the heart. Nonsense. My father interjected sternly. You are a daughter of the Shin family. No one can cast you out. He turned to Shin Xingwan, his tone harsher than ever. Shin Xingwan, apologize to your sister. Shin Xingwan trembled, disbelief etched across her features. Dad, you want me to apologize to her? You would rather believe her than me? I trust the doctor. I trust the evidence. My father thundered. I have reviewed the home surveillance footage. There was no one within a meter of you. You fell on your own. And yet you still seek to defame your sister. Shin Xingwan's face drained of color. She had not anticipated that the living room cameras would capture the corner of the staircase. My parents had refrained from mentioning the footage, still considering her feelings and hoping to give her an opportunity to admit her mistakes. But she had failed to seize it. Shin Xingwan was utterly panicked, crying as she pleaded, No, Dad, Mom, I didn't mean to. I was just momentarily confused. Enough. My mother sobbed, pointing at her with eyes full of disappointment. I expected you to treat her as a sister, and this is how you act. Yuechu has endured so much to return to us. How could you be so cruel to her? From today onward, you will move out. Reflect on where you went wrong. Shin Xingwan appeared as if struck by lightning. She had been expelled from her home. She had lost, utterly and completely. With resentment, she glared at me, while I merely buried my face in the blanket. My shoulders quivering slightly, playing the part of a pitiable creature wronged by the world. Only I knew how joyfully I laughed beneath the covers. Surveillance footage? I had known of its existence all along. The reason I dared to act so dramatically was that I had calculated that the moment the truth was revealed would be the most devastating blow to Shin Xingwan. Shin Xingwan had been cast out. I had become the sole center of this family. My health, under the attentive care of my family, fluctuated between good and bad. Today, upon hearing that a company project had encountered difficulties, my heart would race. Tomorrow, if I noticed the nanny looking unwell, I would immediately be unable to sleep. My family lived in trepidation, fearful that even the slightest misstep might trigger my fragile heart. Shin Ijo canceled all unnecessary social engagements, returning home punctually each day to accompany me. My father, even during company meetings, would first call to check on my mood. My mother was ever close, personally cooking soup and meals for me. Gu Weijing visited more frequently as well. He no longer mentioned Shin Xingwan, instead quietly spending time with me, sharing light-hearted jokes or bringing intriguing little trinkets to cheer me up. I knew that in his heart, the scales had completely tipped in my favor. Shin Xingwan was unwilling to be cast away so easily. She desperately sought to contact my parents and brother, weeping and confessing her mistakes. Yet, no one paid her any heed. The doctor had advised that any mention of her could serve as a trigger for my distress. For my sake, the entire family resolutely severed all means of communication with her. In desperation, she decided to make a final stand at the company's annual charity gala. It was a grand event attended by the elite, with the Shin family as the hosts, drawing significant attention. I appeared in the starry nightgown selected by Gu Huijing, linking my arm with my father's as we entered the banquet hall. My presence stirred a small commotion. Everyone had heard of the Shin family's ailing true daughter, recently returned. My pale complexion and fragile demeanor perfectly corroborated the rumors. Halfway through the gala, the lights suddenly dimmed, and the large screen at the center of the stage flickered to life. Everyone assumed it was a special segment of the evening. However, the image that appeared was of me. In the video, I was in the garden at home, laughing and chatting with the gardener. I appeared vibrant, devoid of any signs of illness, even playfully coaxing a butterfly, smiling like a child. The scene then shifted to me in my room, humming a tune while watering my succulent plants. My leisurely demeanor bore no resemblance to that of a mentally fragile patient. Gasps echoed throughout the venue. All eyes turned towards me, whispers circulating. Didn't she say she was on the brink of death? She looks rather lively. Is she acting? The upper class is treacherous. What role is she playing this time? My parents' expressions darkened instantaneously. Just then, Xin Xingwan, clad in a white gown, resembling a vengeful goddess, ascended the stage. Clutching the microphone, her eyes filled with tears, she proclaimed, "Ladies and gentlemen, I know you are all puzzled. Today, I shall unmask the true identity of a fraud." Pointing at me, her voice shrieked, "Xin Yuechu. She is not ill. Everything about her is a facade." She employed a cunning strategy to elicit sympathy from my parents, ultimately driving me from her home. She is the one, a woman of deep malice and scheming intent. The flashbulbs of cameras converged upon me. I stood frozen, my body trembling slightly, akin to a frightened fawn. My parents attempted to rush to my defense, but I stilled them with a mere glance. My gaze fell upon Xin Xingwan on the stage, on the large screen depicting a healthy version of myself, and on the assembly of spectators. Their eyes either filled with disdain or revelry. I smiled. That smile was steeped in despair and self-mockery. Then, I raised my head to the screen and softly uttered a phrase. My voice was barely a whisper. Yet it resonated clearly throughout the entire banquet hall via the microphone at my chest. It became evident that I only dared to smile when I believed no one was watching. It seemed even a fleeting moment of joy was a transgression. As soon as my words fell, the video on the big screen continued to play, much to Xin Xingwan's astonishment. The footage she had submitted to the television station only encompassed the initial segment. In the video, after I had finished laughing in the garden, the smile on my face vanished in an instant. I addressed the gardener, saying, "Uncle Zhang, thank you. Speaking with you allows me to momentarily forget my troubles." Yet, the thought of my sister enduring suffering outside, the worry etched on my parents' faces because of me, weighed heavily on my heart as if it were being crushed by a stone. The scene shifted. Inside a room, after watering the plants, I set the watering can down and approached the window, gazing at the sky beyond. If I were to perish, would everyone find liberation? My sister could return home. My parents would no longer fret over me, and my brother would not have to tread carefully in my presence. Such a scenario would not be entirely unwelcome. The video concluded. A profound silence enveloped the hall. If the previous footage served as evidence, the latter half became a catastrophic twist. It portrayed me as a figure of kindness, resilience, and solitary suffering, even contemplating death to grant peace to others. In stark contrast, Xin Xingwan, the one who meticulously edited the video to publicly assault the rightful heir, was revealed as nothing more than a malicious jester. Xin Xingwan stood on stage, her complexion ashen. Unbeknownst to her, the television station employee she had bribed had already been rebought by Gu Huijing for double the price. The web she believed ensnared me had, from the very beginning, been woven for her own downfall. I gazed at her, tears finally cascading down my cheeks. "Sister, why must you treat me this way? Do you truly wish to drive me to the brink of death?" I clutched my chest and suddenly expelled a mouthful of blood, my body collapsing weakly. It was not an act. I had concealed a blood packet in my mouth. Yet to everyone else, it appeared as though I had been driven to the brink by rage, my life hanging by a thread. "Call an ambulance." Quickly, the banquet hall erupted into chaos. In the final moments before being lifted onto the stretcher, I caught a glimpse of Xin Xingwan being escorted away by security. Her face was devoid of color, her eyes vacant, muttering, "No, this is not how it is supposed to be." The game was over. After that night, Xin Xingwan's reputation lay in ruins. The spectacle of the malicious false heiress, driving the true heiress to madness, became the greatest laughingstock of high society. To quell public outcry and afford me a measure of justice, the Xin family publicly severed ties with Xin Xingwan and sent her to a rehabilitation facility abroad, under the guise of treatment. In truth, it was exile. Meanwhile, I emerged as the most sympathetic victim of this tempest. My condition was deemed increasingly legitimate, with the company's psychological consultants and psychiatric experts unanimously concluding that I suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder and profound insecurity. The sole remedy was to grant me an overwhelming sense of control and safety. During a family meeting in the presence of all my uncles and elders, I sat in a wheelchair, swathed in a thick blanket, and softly articulated my desire. "I am afraid. I constantly feel that everything I possess could be taken from me at any moment. Father, mother, brother, may I have a small portion of the company's shares? Only by holding something in my grasp can I find peace at night. Just a little, perhaps 1%? Will that be all right? I gazed at them with pleading and anxious eyes. My father, upon seeing my pale visage, was overwhelmed with compassion. He waved his hand decisively, declaring, "What 1%? You are my only daughter. Everything belonging to the Shin family and the future is yours. To ensure your peace of mind during your recovery, from this day forth, I will transfer 50% of my shares to you." The proclamation stunned everyone present. Shin Ijo not only refrained from opposing, but was the first to voice his support. "I agree. As long as Yuechu can recover, I would be willing to give her the entire company." My mother grasped my hand, tears streaming down her face as she exclaimed, "Yes, let everything belong to our Yuechu. We desire nothing but your health." Thus, I acquired absolute control over the Shin group without a conflict, becoming the true head of the Shin family. A few months later, I regained my health and officially entered the company. Gu Huijing became my most capable assistant and most harmonious partner. He asked me more than once, "Did you know there were cameras in the living room when you were in the hospital?" I merely smiled and refrained from answering. Some matters are best left unspoken, for that is the rule of the adult game. Occasionally, I would receive postcards from abroad and signed, bearing a single twisted and vengeful phrase written in English, "I will be back." I looked at the postcard and casually tossed it into the shredder. Then, I lifted my coffee and gazed out the window. "Want to play? I am always ready. But next time, you may find yourself unable to afford even the price of a return ticket." The end. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.